Just wanted to introduce you to how Out of the Loop came about as a process. The truth is, it actually came about a little bit by accident. I've been asked to write a book for people who experience anxiety. I work with people who experience anxiety. I teach people how to overcome it. And every time I've sort of thought about writing a book, I've felt that it is a very flat and dull sort of offering, which is completely unlike the experience that I have when I work with people around anxiety. So even though I know anxiety is a really tough thing to live with, it's also, working with somebody is very obviously interpersonal, and it's alive. It's a live process of an exchange of information and ideas and support, and it's interesting, it's funny, it's all of these things that I've really, really struggled to get onto a page. So it's taken quite a long time for me to really come up with the best way of trying to present this information. And Out of the Loop is that offering. So, what I learned through this process is information really doesn't need to be dry and boring. I think what I wanted to get over to people is that the mind is an amazing place to hang out once you really get to know it. I wanted to find a way to convey all the information that I share with people one-to-one, but in a way that wasn't overwhelming, in a way that still felt supportive. I really had ideas of above my station years ago. I had in my mind this creative resource that I didn't really see anywhere. It didn't seem to really exist, and it involved lots of different medium, visual and auditory and written stuff. And that's now what we have in Out of the Loop, I'm really delighted to say. So that's what I want to share with you on this page. So, I wanted this resource to be as good as a one-to-one session. And where it can never match that is in responsivity. So, if we're sitting down together and working together and you ask me a question, I can answer your specific personal question in real time, and your brain can have that answer right then. And obviously, a resource that's less interactive than a human being is not going to quite deliver that. But I'm hoping that all the different sort of directions from which the information come over a period of time will answer all of your questions. So I'm always available if you need to ask me questions by email or whatever. How I came to know so much about anxiety is because I experienced it myself. And I had already trained as a counsellor. I was in my final year of my psychology and biology degree. And I was under a lot of strain with a situation in my personal life. My partner had cancer. I had a small child. There was a lot going on. I was trying to organise to emigrate. So just, obviously it was just too much. And this switched on. And I found myself in an extremely anxious state that just did not switch off again. And I was really curious about the fact that even though I was immersed in this world of psychology and I had access to all the resources and, the scientific journals and, my tribe were counsellors and therapists and whatnot, but I couldn't find anyone to fully explain to me in a way that made sense to me what was happening and why I felt as I felt. And I certainly couldn't find anybody who could explain to me how to switch this system back off again. And I just kind of thought that wasn't good enough. I didn't want to be stuck in a state that just didn't seem to match my personality. And so I went on a research rampage and spent really pretty much the next 20 years perfecting this approach to anxiety, which might be a little bit different to things you've come across before. But there's nothing in here that I will teach you that I haven't applied to myself and found successful, and that I haven't shared with other people and they have found it successful. So everything is tried and tested and has been in lots of different environments. So, I've done a lot of one-to-one work, I've done a lot of group work, I've worked in the third sector quite a lot, working alongside counsellors with people who suffer from trauma to help them to be able to reduce and manage and regulate their nervous system response to fight, flight, or freeze response, so that they can then have a more successful experience of counselling without being constantly triggered and, constantly kind of one step forward, two steps back. So that has been a really interesting use of this process. And so over years, I've worked with so many people and learned from every single one of them. It's been fascinating. And the outcome is that I have all this information to share with you, which I have consolidated into this website, and hopefully it will be everything it needs to be. So it kind of, the out of the loop process that is available to you here is a combination of visual, written, auditory materials, and it will take you through a journey of kind of how to work with your mind, with your body, with your existing system. It's all already in here. So it's a lot about education and demystification of this thing that's been labelled as a disorder. It's very much about, retraining you to have a completely different relationship with your mind and your body, so that you can have a different output. You have the result of that, the byproduct of knowing how to interact with yourself is that you end up in a more functional state. So, it is a combination of education and experiential exercises, because minds need that combination in order to turn learning into procedural memory so that it operates automatically. So it's a bit like learning to ride a bike. You kind of need to know the concept of a bike, that it has wheels, you have to sit on it, you have to hold the handlebars, but so many other things go on while you're actually learning to ride a bike. That to begin with, if you had a list of them, you'd think, how on earth am I ever going to do all those things? How am I going to balance, move, process visual information and speed, remember how to do it, coordinate my body, coordinate with other bikes and people and whatnot? If you had a list like that, it'd be daunting. You'd never get on the bike. So this is done in bite-sized pieces that will just take you through. And the whole thing is that as you practice something, as you apply knowledge into practice, your brain takes over that process for you after a little bit of practice. And so over time, it becomes effortless. And that's what I did for myself. And that's what I've shared with hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world up until this day. And that's what I want for you, is to have control over your state of mind and your body, your nervous system, to befriend yourself, to create a good relationship with what goes on the inside. You can't always in life control what goes on the outside, you with the best will in the world, but you can learn to control what goes on the inside. And if you can control what goes on the inside in a way that allows you to feel good and balanced and, just stable with a sense of equilibrium, you can deal with stuff that goes on the outside so much more easily. There's no such thing as a perfect life, but you can always improve your relationship with yourself, no matter what level of trauma you've undergone. Your relationship with yourself and your body and your mind and its systems and functions is always repairable. And I have just seen that time and time again, so I feel very confident in being able to say that to you. So when you do develop a good relationship with your mind and body, things begin to take care of themselves a little bit more, and that's an easier place to be. So all the best. And if you need to ask me anything, you can contact me via the link on the website, and I'm always happy to answer questions. Always have a look in the question and answer section, because there'll be a lot of information on there that might be helpful. Anyway, thank you.